Konami was a well-established company on the NES and Super Nintendo, and they recently started developing games for the Genesis. Originally, a run-and-gun platformer called Gunstar Heroes was planned, but it was rejected by Konami. Despite that, the game would end up being released anyway. How did this happen? The answer might surprise you. Let's take a look. What's going on? It's Podrez coming at you with another video. Alright, if you're interested in joining our Discord server, just go to discord.podrez.net. I would describe it as a very close community, almost like a family type of experience. Anyway, let's talk about the game company Treasure. After graduating from college, Masato Maegawa was hired by Konami to become a game developer. He was involved with some early beat-em-ups like The Simpsons and Bucky O'Hare. He was also involved with some console games like Super Castlevania 4 and Contra 3. Masato enjoyed fulfilling his dream of becoming a video game developer, but he was not happy with Konami. He believed that Konami was putting too much emphasis on creating sequels to well-established games instead of making original titles. Case in point, when Masato presented his new game, which would later become Gunstar Heroes, to Konami, they rejected it because they believed it wouldn't sell. Masato wanted more freedom to make the games that he wanted, so he left Konami and started his own company, Treasure. Unlike Konami, who was a big third-party developer for Nintendo, Treasure preferred the Sega Genesis. Not only would the company get more freedom with Sega, they preferred the hardware too. According to Masato, the Genesis was much easier to program for than the Super Nintendo. He also preferred the console's faster processor, which would be beneficial for his upcoming game. Speaking of which, even though it was now under a new company, the development of Gunstar Heroes continued, which would become Treasure's first published game. It's a run-and-gun platformer that's similar to Contra. Like in that game, you collect weapon upgrades that have different advantages. At the beginning, you can select what gun you start off with, as well as the level. I think it's cool that your default weapon can be anything you want instead of the standard mechanical gun like in Contra. Like in Contra 3, you can store up to 2 weapons at a time. What's nice is that you can combine both weapons and get a more powerful weapon. This might be a weird comparison, but it's kinda like in Kirby 64 where you can combine 2 abilities into one. It's fun to see what each weapon does when you combine them both together. Instead of lives, you have health, which is indicated by a number. This makes the game easier because you can keep your weapon even if you do get hit. You can also continue as many times as you want. The gameplay is unsurprisingly close to Contra. For one, it's mainly a side-scroller with occasional sections that scroll vertically. The bosses all resemble ones that you would see from Contra Hardcore. There's tons of impressive rotation effects which you would normally see in Konami games. It's no secret that the team behind Gunstar Heroes were some of Konami's best developers. A lot of creativity went into some of the stages. In the second level, there's several different mini-bosses, but they're not always the same each time you play. The 4th stage is a board game where you roll a die to land on a certain spot. You'll either land on a boss or a room where you stock up on items. I'm honestly shocked that Konami didn't give the green light to release this game. The problem with only making licensed games is that you don't own it. If the license to Ninja Turtles or another property expires, you can't re-release that game ever again or make sequels. But with a property that's yours, you can do whatever you want. Konami should have been open-minded and given this game a chance. During the development of Gunstar Heroes, Treasure was working on another game, McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure. The game was actually finished before Gunstar Heroes, but they wanted to lead with an original title instead of a licensed property. McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure actually did help familiarize the development team with the Sega Genesis. When the game was released in Japan, it was promoted in various McDonald's locations. It was released in the US in December of 1993. You play as Ronald McDonald, who must find the treasure map so he can save his friends. It's a basic platformer. You have a projectile weapon that shoots straight ahead and a grappling hook that can help you reach higher platforms and connect to certain objects. On the normal difficulty, you can take 4 hits before you die, but you can obtain items that increase the capacity. You can collect currency that allows you to purchase items at the store. These can be nice because it allows you to buy free lives and continues. The balloon items are nice because there's tons of bottomless pits in the game and it'll prevent you from dying. A lot of thought went into the graphics and McDonald's license. Several McDonald Land characters are in the game, but many enemies had to be designed by Treasure themselves. That's not an easy task for a franchise that's not theirs. The levels are magical, colorful, and mysterious like I would expect a McDonald's game to be, and it looks amazing. The stages have a lot of variety with new mechanics in each of them. The music is shockingly good, some of the best I've ever heard on the Genesis. The bosses are dumb. In order to hurt them, you have to let them steal one of your life points. If you're on your last hit, you have no way to attack the boss unless you receive a life upgrade. Your projectile weapon is nice, but you can only shoot left and right, which means some enemies will be out of reach. In order to free your friends, you have to give away some of your life points, and if you don't have enough, you have to go around the stage and collect more. I find it weird that the game constantly has you sacrificing your hit points. Because it's a product placement game, you would expect it to be mediocre, but Treasure put a lot of effort into this game. It feels like a completely unrelated game that happens to feature Ronald McDonald. Overall, it's a surprisingly good game. With 2 games under their belt, the developers were split up into 4 to work on separate games. One of the projects was a game called Dynamite Headdy. The lead developer, Kiyoshi Kimura, wanted to make an original character that appealed to everyone. The graphics were inspired by Western animation. Before release, Sega of America requested the game to be more difficult so that it couldn't be beaten too quickly on rentals. Dynamite Headdy will be released in September of 1994. It's a platformer with a unique mechanic. You can fling your head in multiple directions, which is the main mechanic of the game. You can use it to reach higher platforms as well as move objects. You can also attack enemies and bosses with your head. There's items you can collect to give you an additional ability, like being able to climb walls and break objects that you normally couldn't. You can take multiple hits before you die, which is indicated by the studio light on the top left. Green is good and red is bad. I wish they went with a more typical life bar though, because it's not clear how many hits you can actually take. The game has a lot of cool effects. Stage 2 has this moving 3D foreground that you have to maneuver through. Some of the bosses have a nice rotation effect that you don't commonly see on the Genesis. In the 3rd stage, when going up from one floor to another, we see the entire foreground flip over, which looks incredible. The developers definitely knew how to make Genesis games. The controls are also great. I like that you're able to fling your head in 8 different directions. Once again, I have to compliment the music. It's some of the best I've ever heard on the console. The bosses are very creative. Each one has a different mechanic that you have to overcome. The developers also do a good job telling you where the weak spots are. My only real complaint is how long it takes for the game to actually start. The first stage is just an auto-scroller where you have to sit and wait. You're able to move around, but your actions do not affect the outcome at all. It's basically just a cutscene. Then you fight a mini-boss, and then you go to a tutorial stage. The game has way too much padding at the beginning, and it takes too long to get to the action. Outside of that, this might not have been a licensed character or a sequel to a well-established franchise, but Treasure proved that you can still make a great game, unlike what Konami might have thought. Another project that was being worked on was a game called Alien Soldier. Unlike most Genesis games, which required only 2 designers and 2 programmers, the lead developer Hideyuki Saganami wanted to challenge himself and develop the game alone. Despite there being 32-bit consoles that were already out, Hideyuki wanted Alien Soldier to be on the Genesis because of all the shooters that were already on it. The game was intended to be more difficult and only for hardcore gamers. The title screen even has the words Visual Shock, Speed Shock, Sound Shock to emphasize the difficulty. The game was released in 1995, but only in Japan and Europe. The US would get the game too, but only on the Sega Channel. The game shares similarities to Gunstar Heroes. Like in that game, you have various weapon upgrades and the controls are similar, but they made tons of changes, both good and bad in my opinion. You can actually pick more than one weapon at the beginning, and you can even have more than 2 weapons at a time, but the ability to combine weapons is no longer a thing. Your weapons can also run out of ammo if you use them too frequently, which means you have to switch to a different weapon until it charges up. One of your best attacks in the game is the Counterforce. Even though it's a very short range, it deflects projectiles and deals a lot of damage against the bosses. Alien Soldier definitely accomplished its goal of being extremely difficult. The bosses have extremely long life bars that deplete very slowly. Even the more powerful weapons don't deal enough damage. You also have to worry about your weapon running out of ammo, which brings me to my next point. The controls are way too complicated. Every time you switch out your weapon, you have to pull out this menu during the gameplay, which is not efficient. I've gotten hit so many times just trying to change my weapon. Your character has a lot of abilities, but this means you have to remember random button combinations. A few times I accidentally performed the wrong action intending to do something else. I also don't like how you aim in this game. Your character will always face in the same direction you're moving unless you stop shooting, which is not how Gunstar Heroes worked. I do have to give some credit though. The developers pulled off some cool effects just like their other games. The graphics are nice and colorful, with some stages looking very appealing. Overall, it's decent, but not as good as Gunstar Heroes. They overcomplicated the controls and added mechanics that had no business being in this game. In my opinion, they should have given you unlimited ammo, and the controls should have been exactly the same as Gunstar Heroes. Konami was one of the heavy hitters in the gaming industry, but they played it a little too safe. They had a tendency to publish licensed games and sequels to well-established games. When Masato Maegawa tried to offer some originality, Konami didn't want any part of it. That's okay though, because Masato decided to follow his dreams and publish the game anyway. If you made it this far in the video, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right there. And what is your experience with Treasure games? Which one would you consider to be your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.